This is the In Focus podcast from The Hindu.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the In Focus podcast. I'm your host G. Sampath. The French Open will kick off in Paris. This would be the last time the tournament will host 14-time champion Rafael Nadal. The King of Clay has been struggling with injuries, and as this is likely to be his last year on tour, he would be hoping to make a deep run in the major where he's tasted the greatest success. But then there are a lot of younger players standing in his way, and not to forget, of course, world number one Novak Djokovic as well, who has had a lackluster year so far. On the women's side, Iga Swiatek will start as a firm favourite with none of the big names looking likely to cause her major trouble. And there will also be, after a long gap, an Indian challenger in the main draw in the form of Sumit Nagal. And the draw was released yesterday afternoon. So what does the draw tell us? How many rounds can Nagal and of course Nadal go this time? And is there a chance of one last Nadal-Djokovic encounter this time around? We bring you a detailed preview of the 2024 French Open, and we have with us N. Sudarshan from the Hindu's Sports Bureau. Sudarshan, thank you so much for joining us and welcome back to In Focus.
Thanks so much, Sampath, for having me here.
Sudarshan, to start with, I was wondering if you can share your thoughts on the draw. Everybody has been talking about the Nadal-Zverev first round match, which is really a bit of a bummer because you're going to lose one of the main contenders in the first round itself. But also the women's side and the men's side, the rest of the players, I was looking at your thoughts on who has the best chance of making a deep run, if not grabbing the title.
Like you mentioned, the biggest news from the draw was the Nadal-Zverev first round match. And remember, the last time Nadal played at the French Open in 2022, this was a marquee semi-final, and Nadal and Zverev battled each other for close to 2.5 hours for just 2 sets, and they were pretty even. Nadal had edged the first set, and the second set was in a tie-break when Zverev suffered that horrific injury, which took him nearly a year to recover. Other than these two, there is, of course, Alcaraz, who has not played much of late. He has just played one event in Madrid because he has a right forearm injury, so he's coming back from it. And Zverev, as we mentioned, is one of the favorites. He's a 3-time Roland Garros semi-finalist, and each of those have come in the last 3 years, and he has had a good build-up to the tournament. He won in Rome. Actually, the French Open this time has had very interesting build-up, considering Tsitsipas won Monte Carlo, Rublev won Madrid, and then we have had Zverev in Rome, and then the Geneva event is still going on. So I would put all of these guys in the mix. There is Sinner, who is also nursing some hip injury concerns. He's also one among those.
Is Sinner playing?
Yes, he has entered the draw. Yes, he has entered, yeah. And there are some interesting first round matches as well, which we saw in the draw. Andy Murray and former champion Stan Wawrinka, they are scheduled to meet in the first round. There is one match between Holger Rune and Dan Evans. Among women, Swiatek and Osaka, two Grand Slam champions, they are scheduled to meet in the second round. And there is also the match between Elina Svitolina and Pliskova in the first round. So there are some interesting matchups here. Among women, Swiatek, Sabalenka.
Between Svitolina and who?
Pliskova.
Okay.
So this is the first round match. And among women, Swiatek is the one to watch out for. There is, of course, Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, who was a former finalist and who has now graduated to being a Grand Slam champion. She won the US Open last year. So these are the big names I would watch out for.
Right. So coming to the Nadal-Zverev match, Sudarshan, do you think Nadal has any chance at all of getting past Zverev in the first round match? Because everything is up in the air once you put Nadal with Roland Garros clay court. So do you think he has a chance of winning, or is that a fairy tale not likely to happen one more time? Because we also know that Nadal is generally vulnerable in the first 1 or 2 rounds. I mean, once he gets to the 4th round, he becomes very almost impossible to beat, not just on clay but on any surface. But this is a first round match. but this is also his last Roland Garros event. So do you think he will be competitive, or it's going to be like Zverev sweeping in 3 sets?
I don't give Nadal much of a chance, but he has proven us wrong every single time. But this time, I feel it's a bit different because he has not had that many matches for close to a year and a half now, and he has only played 2 or 3 maximum back-to-back matches, and just once or twice on back-to-back days. Now, Grand Slam tennis is different; it's best of 5, but there's also the day of recovery. But I don't feel Nadal's tennis is up there. There have been times when he has not gone the full, he has not tried the full hog because there is still some apprehension in him that some part of his body might just sort of give away. So I didn't. I did see some of his comments. I think after Madrid or something, when he said that he is now ready to push his body to the limit because this is the one tournament that he builds up for every year. This is his most favorite tournament, and his record is 112-3. So he has not pushed himself to the hilt so far. And if he does, this will be the tournament. But I'll still feel that he doesn't have enough to beat Zverev in current, who is in very good form and who is a very good clay courter.
Right. I mean, that's not a very optimistic note, but nonetheless, we'll wait and watch. And as you said, he has this ability to prove observers wrong. What about his other big rival, Djokovic? I mean, he's had a pretty mediocre year so far. No finals at all. So based on what we have seen of him so far at Geneva, I think he has won like 2 comfortable rounds there, which is an ATP 250. And so, what do you make of Djokovic's chances this time around?
Djokovic will always be in within a chance. He is the defending champion and he knows his way around winning a Grand Slam. He has not done well this year. That's pretty much agreed, and he has no title. He's lost to Sinner in the semis in Australia, and then he has lost to the likes of Luca Nardi, Alejandro Tabilo, and Casper Ruud in the Monte Carlo semis. There has been a lot of upheaval with Djokovic. He's no longer with Ivan Ilić as the coach. He has changed his whole support staff. And bottom line is he has not played good tennis. And there was also this small incident about a bottle falling on his head in Rome while he was signing autographs. So things are not exactly going well, but he has won 22 Grand Slams and he pretty much knows how to win them. And these guys are sometimes transformed players once they come into a familiar setting. This is probably the first crisis that he's facing since the phase that he had to endure after Roland Garros 2016. Back then, it was more about lack of motivation because 2016 Roland Garros was which actually completed his career. Like at that point, he held all 4 slams and he admitted to not knowing what's left. It took him 2 years to get out of it. I'm not sure if he can afford so much time now to get out of this phase, but he can actually look back at his career and feel that he has done everything that is there to be done, so he can just play freely. So I still feel that he is in with a chance. He's a great player on clay, and Grand Slams is where these guys really show what they're worth.
Right, and so we've discussed Djokovic, Nadal, Zverev, Alcaraz. What about Sinner and Tsitsipas? I mean, they are like always there on the scene. Tsitsipas in particular, I really feel for him. He keeps reaching the finals and running into Djokovic and doesn't know how to deal with him. Does he have a chance this time around, the Tsitsipas?
He has a chance because he is good on clay and he won, I think, for the second time in his career, and he is a former French Open finalist. He slipped out of the top 10 briefly at the start of the year, and then he's back in it now. And he knows how to get around the clay court. And Sinner is playing. Sinner had this hip scare, and there was a moment sometime last week when it looked like he wouldn't play, but he has entered the draw. And he's coming after a huge body of work, lots of matches. So some rest was due. Maybe the injury was a bit of a scare, but he is confident of playing. So I would put these guys also in the mix, but this French Open men's draw looks open because everybody who is in is having some issue or the other, minor niggle injury, So I feel that more than ever before, this French Open men's draw is pretty open.
Right, and what about the women's draw, Sudarshan? I mean, Swiatek seems to be like miles ahead of everybody else. I mean, she's won every clay court Masters tournament she's entered this year around. Where are all the clay court specialists on the women's side? You know, they generally come out of the woodwork. People like Sebastian Baez on the men's side, for example. You know, they don't seem to be around that much these days, and Swiatek is dominating every year in the clay season.
Yeah, I feel that she is miles above everybody else, especially on clay. Like you mentioned, we do still get these players on the men's side, like Sebastian Baez. I think last year, Echeverry was a good shot who came up to the quarterfinals. Then the women's draw somehow doesn't seem to have those. And I was curious to know what Krejcikova would do because she has a pretty good record against Swiatek. But Swiatek, while I feel that she is miles above everybody else and she has had a great build up, I think she won both Madrid and Rome and lost the final in Stuttgart. She has won the last two French Opens and three of the last four. I do feel she has some challenge, but I don't know if that's enough to sort of knock her off the perch. In Madrid, Sabalenka did match her shot for shot, but that also had to do with a few of the conditions in Madrid suiting Sabalenka because the ball bounces higher there, it moves faster, and with Sabalenka's power game and big serve, she is in with a chance. But Roland Garros clay is much slower, the conditions are much slower, so Swiatek is the overwhelming favorite. Swiatek generally has trouble against big hitters like Ostapenko, who is a former champion here. She has a 4-0 record against Swiatek. People who deny her time to hit her shots, she does struggle, even against the likes of Rybakina. But clay sort of neutralizes that, and Swiatek is the favorite.
Do you think Ostapenko might be able to stop her because Ostapenko is also a French Open champion and she seems to like clay, but then I don't think even if they were to meet, I don't think they will meet before the finals. How do you see a matchup between Swiatek and Ostapenko, the only one I think on tour who has a 4-0 record against the world number one?
I would actually say 50-50 on every other surface, maybe 60-40 in favor of Swiatek on clay because the surface sort of gives her some edge. But Ostapenko is dangerous. Like even when she won the French Open, she basically played the same way she would play on every other surface. There were an equal number of unforced errors and winners. So she just knows one way to play, and that is just hit, 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 and she's pretty good at it. And it's not like she's proving lucky every time. She's brave on those big points. So I do feel that she has a chance, but I will still pick Swiatek to win an Ostapenko match on clay.
Right. I mean, one hopes that Ostapenko does make a deep run because she's always an entertaining player to watch. Now, coming to the other aspect of the draw, Sudarshan, the French Open organizers this time have strangely denied wildcards to really like big names like Dominic Thiem, for whom also it is his final appearance. He was forced to play the qualifiers and he lost in the qualifying round. And on the women's side, they wouldn't give a wild card to Wozniacki and Raducanu. Raducanu decided, okay, fine, I'm not going to play qualifiers, and she skipped the French Open. But they've given all the wild cards, almost all of them, to local French players. I mean, is this normal at all? Doesn't the tournament and the spectators end up being really the losers because they miss a chance to really watch players like of the caliber of Wozniacki, Raducanu, Thiem, and so on?
Here, I do feel that the French missed a trick by not giving Dominic Thiem the wild card because considering this is his last year and he has performed exceptionally well on clay and he was seen as one of the next great clay courters after Rafael Nadal. So I do feel that they missed a trick, but Thiem took it very well. And I thought it was a great attitude from him where he said he had so many chances to get his ranking up there and he didn't do it, and probably he doesn't deserve it. So that was actually great seeing Thiem say that. But wildcards are generally like this, and the French are more notorious in this. They gatekeep a lot. Invariably, 60 to, I mean, three-fourths of the wildcards at all slams actually go to their local players. And there's also, I think, one thing that really troubles me is the three Grand Slams, apart from Wimbledon, US Open, Australian and French, they also have something called a reciprocal wildcard setup. So for every French Open, they will give one wildcard to US Open and one to Australian Open, and they can choose whoever they want to. This is like a closed circuit, and this is where a lot of, I would say, in the past, people have said undeserving players have sort of gotten in. Wimbledon is more egalitarian in this matter because one, they have a historical obligation to sort of reward results on grass. So in 2022, we saw Tim van Rijthoven get a men's wild card because he performed very well on the grass circuit coming into Wimbledon. Last year, David Goffin got one wild card. He was from Belgium and he was a 2019 semi-finalist. He has done decently well on grass. And Sebastian Offner got it because he had a very good run from clay. So Wimbledon is not part of the reciprocal agreement with the other slams. So that sort of opens up two slots for them. And they also historically rewarded the likes of Venus Williams, who is a five-time champion there, and also Serena Williams. So Wimbledon is more considerate in these matters because one, grass results have to be sort of taken into care, but the other slams, they just operate like an old boys club, and they just distribute it among themselves, which is sometimes disturbing to see.
Yeah, I mean, it does actually become a big downer or a disadvantage for players who come from countries that don't have a Grand Slam or an ATP tournament, like India, for example. So, I mean, what are the chances that Sumit Nagal will get a wild card into French Open? Anyway, but that he didn't need it this time, and he's there in the main draw. So I was just wondering, what do you make of his chances? He's going to play, I think, Karen Khachanov, who's a very solid player, who's been there for a long time in the top 15, top 20. So how do you rate his chances this time?
That's a bit of a tough first match against Khachanov, but if he ever has a chance against Khachanov, it will be on clay because it doesn't necessarily reward the power game of Khachanov as much as the other surfaces do. So I feel that Sumit can still put up a fight. I'm not sure if it's enough to win, but he can put up a fight. And he has been playing well of late. Like even in Geneva, he gave Sebastian Baez a good run for his money. First, it was a tiebreaker. He competed well. He had a good run at Monte Carlo qualifying and then playing three sets against Holger Rune. And it should also give him confidence that he has made the cut for Wimbledon as well, though there's no official confirmation of it. He has, I think he looks set to play at Wimbledon also, which will be three straight slams for Nagal. But at this stage, it's also true that he should start looking at how to win a round or two, because now that he has shown that he has the game to be in the top 100, now if he has to graduate further and get into the top 50, he needs to start winning rounds. Like merely qualifying for these big events won't get him up there. It will actually set him up financially because even a first round loser at some of the biggest events like the Grand Slams, they give him close to 60,000 to 70,000 US dollars. So it will set him up financially. But considering that he has come so far, played so well this year, I feel he should start plotting how to win a round or two. Now, it may not come at the French Open, but I'm sure that should be his next goal.
Right, it's interesting you mentioned this because I was just having a chat with somebody else who follows the tour pretty closely, and he was saying after the run at Monte Carlo, after that Rune match, I mean, clay is his surface, right? But then he just completely disappeared from the clay tour. I mean, after that we didn't hear from him, and then he turned up at, I think, the tournament in France. And then he lost in the first round, and again at Geneva, he lost in the first round. I mean, shouldn't he have been making the most of the clay season and building up points? Maybe he wouldn't have run into Karen Khachanov in the first round if he had won more matches in the clay season and got his ranking up a little bit more. But instead, he just took a big break.
I did feel that he didn't want to push himself too much physically because he has been playing a lot and he has a history of sort of breaking down. I think it was more of a 50-50 situation where he didn't want to sort of miss out on the opportunity to play French clay. But I mean, I do get the point. Like when you're actually playing well, playing more matches, and the momentum would have maybe helped himself. But somewhere, maybe I feel that his past history of being injured also played on his mind to sort of take it a bit easy in the lead up.
Right, but he's also playing in the doubles, by the way, at the French Open. I think he's partnering Sebastian Hoffner, if I'm not mistaken. So, what are the Indians' chances in doubles? I think we'll also have the Bopanna and Yuki Bamri. I don't know who they are partnering. Can you talk a little bit about the doubles chances for India, where Indians have traditionally done much better?
Yeah, the doubles, there will be a lot of focus on doubles because Bopanna is playing, Yuki Bamri is playing, and considering that the Olympics is a couple of months away, Rohan can pick a partner of his choice.
Will the Olympics happen on clay court?
Yes, it will happen at Roland Garros. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's happening, and the rankings as on June 9th, I think the Monday after French Open will be the cutoff. Now Rohan can pick whoever he wants to if the partner is in the top 100. The top 10 player gets a choice of his partner. Now it. I mean, Indians have a lot of guys in the top 200 and at least three in the top 100. So it will be interesting. And I was having a chat with Rohan yesterday, and where he mentioned that considering what he has done in the last year and a half, which sort of culminated with the Australian Open Championship and the world number one, he now goes into every tournament thinking that he has a chance to win it. So earlier, maybe his focus was on getting a good run, getting his rankings up, and maybe a semi-final, quarter-final. Like now, he feels that he has a genuine shot at winning every tournament he enters. That's a sort of recalibration of expectations that has happened after the glorious run at the start of the year. And Yuki Bamri has proved himself to be a very adept doubles player now. He has transitioned from singles, and he is, I think, world number 54, if I'm not mistaken. So he, at present, looks in pole position to partner Rohan at the Olympics. So there will be a lot of focus on the doubles, one with the Olympic selection in mind, and also about how Bopanna can do well, considering the great year that he has had.
Right. What about the chances of Sumit Nagal partnering Bopanna in doubles at the Olympics? Is that on the cards as well?
I am not very sure because the singles, I mean, the entry rules are pretty complicated. So there is a chance that Rohan can pick Sumit because, I mean, Sumit has to be in the top 300. So we need to see whether he is in the top 300, which I'm not.
Top 300 of doubles, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Is that maybe why he's participating in doubles this time in the French Open?
So it is pretty complicated. Like some, once the double slots are all filled, some single stars can use their singles ranking to get in, and then there is a continental representation. So I still, but the most straightforward thing for everybody is, which is on the lines of which AIT is also thinking, is just let Rohan pick from a bunch of around 10 doubles players who are in the top 200 in India now, which is great. Like the Indian doubles has been doing pretty well of late. So I don't think Rohan has any dearth of partners. It's just that he has to decide whose game complements his the best.
Right. Thank you so much, Sudarshan. I think it will be an exciting tournament this time and lots to look out for. I mean, everybody would be rooting for Nadal to sort of get past the first round, but which won't be easy. And even if he gets past the first round, I think the second round he'll be facing Medvedev, right? I mean, the Medvedev comes through. Yeah, so it's going to be a tough tour, a tough event for Nadal. But we also have the other almost namesake Nagal to root for. And I think on the women's side, it's an open draw as always. Thank you so much, Sudarshan. It was always a pleasure listening to your observations and insights on the tennis tour. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, Sampath. Pleasure being here.
In Focus will be back soon with analysis of the biggest news issues. In the meantime, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and other platforms. Just search for In Focus by The Hindu. We'll see you soon.